give you an incentive for taking them on.
But I thought that's also factored in this program, in
How?
the U-Win program.
How?
Because there's a special skill acquisition program which they're talking about. So if you employ people, I think there's some incentive that the government gives.
Well, unless you tell me, I don't think that's something that I'm actually aware of.
Okay.
So then also, I mean, you have all this money going into all these programs. Now, all these guys, they need assistance to be able to actually get themselves in the workforce, to be able to be part of the system. But if nobody is actually helping them from this end of the government, it's not going to work. Now, I'll give some few examples. I've came across thousands of graduates that we've actually interviewed trying to go into work. And I came across some people who's gone through university, 4 years, went to service, another 1 year, 5 years. Can't you use a computer? Now, you tell me, how will this person be able to find an employment? And I tried to find out from this person, why, how come? Now, she said, okay, the government doesn't provide the computer, the institution doesn't provide computer, and so on and so forth. Now, we have all these huge funds being set aside for all these policies, but we need training. Engage these people with employer, bring enough employers on board and say, right, okay, we need this guy to begin to have experience, work experience. Now, either incentives to employers to employ these people, to engage these people, to work with them, or you try to bring in the funds and ensure that, okay, if you're going to pay tax, your corporation tax, we're going to give you some percentage if you take number of XYZ people to work for you.
So they have tax breaks.
Tax break, yeah.
But the question is, how many people, you expect employers to keep taking on people for the incentive of tax breaks even if they don't need them? Because we're looking at just the short term. If you're looking at battling unemployment for the long term and the sustainability of those companies, is that really a sustainable plan?
That is one policy. Another policy, we don't have what we call the apprenticeship scheme. Many years ago, we used to have all the technical schools all over the place. If you look around this country now, for example, we don't have skilled plumbers, we don't have skilled carpenters, tilers. If you look around the house to go out of the country to bring all this, like Republic of Benin, Ghana, and so on and so on, to bring in these people to work for us. These are artisans. Why can't we pump this money into developing our apprenticeship scheme, technical schools, that these guys can actually go in? But you see, we should be trying to create employers of labor.
You know, if you look at it, Adeleye, sounds so familiar. We're not in depth of so many things like that.
Yeah.
Because you talked about the artisans and DIY, do-it-yourself, the kind of attitude and culture you get from all the parts of the world. And you remember when we changed our education system, 6-3-3-4, and we're told that even when you get out of school in your first 3 years, your JS3, you can as well be able to rely on some skills learned in school. So we haven't seen any of that.
No.
So now that is why we're a little bit worried. What you're saying is almost what we've been doing over time, or what the different policies have set off to achieve. But we're not there yet.
We're not there yet because the policies are actually, you see, every year you have different policies that comes on. If you implement the policy now, see it through first. If it's not working, then try to overhaul it and make it work. Not today we have one policy, tomorrow you have another policy. So the one you've actually started doesn't work. I mean, you haven't seen it through, then you're going to have to start another one, which is not going to work.
You seem to put everything at the feet of government. I mean, like, for instance, a young lady you spoke with who you asked, well, how come you don't know how to use a computer? And she said the institutions didn't provide, the government didn't provide. It's just all about the government.
It's all about the government.
Are we young people also doing enough to, invest in our own development?
Very good question. Right. Going back to that young lady issue, I tried to find out from her, how come you haven't been able to use computer all your years in school? And she was trying to blame the government, blame the institution, and so on and so forth. But what I found out was, I looked at her, and she had 3 phones, for example. She had a BlackBerry, she had a Samsung, and another phone, 3 phones. And I said, what have you done yourself to actually be able to educate yourself or to help yourself technically to be able to use computers? And I said, you can't just be blaming the government. No government under the heaven can provide for all the citizens. What are you doing for yourself? and she's trying to bring the government. I said, look, if I sell 1 or 2 phones that you have on this table, you get at least about 20,000 30,000. That could buy you a mini laptop that you could actually use to train yourself. Or you could go to cyber cafe, maybe once or twice in a week, to educate yourself. But you're not doing that, and you're blaming the government. Now, you have your own blame. The government has their own blame too. Now, the issue now is, do we have a task force or agencies in place that will actually try to enforce all these policies to make it work? No, we don't have them. Do we have the system in place that goes to institutions to bring that awareness to all these people before they graduate, even during the time they're still studying, to actually tell them, these are the things you need to do? And also, do you have a policy in place in all our tertiary institutions that, okay, the culture of voluntary work has to be in place? Because in the UK, for example, from A levels, everyone, I mean, they try to make sure that they go into voluntary work. A levels, university. So by the time they're going to be finishing from university, some will get automatic employment. Some will be able to be called by the former employer they've been working with. But that culture is not here as well. So if you look at all the angles, the government has the blame, the institution have the blame, then individually we have blame as well.
Do you think that our curriculum has enough, because we've noticed that now there is that urge now for people to do what they call IT, some training of sorts with companies, spend time with them and be a part of the company and see how things are related to your course. Is this a way forward, or do you think the institutions should be doing more to encourage people to go into some form of voluntary work?
Voluntary work would be the way forward. You see, the IT, the NYSC, I'm speaking authoritatively from experience. I've seen some people that came to work for us who said they're doing the service here. Now, what will happen is they pay out. They don't even go to serve. You see, it's not been properly monitored. Somebody confessed to me and said, right, sir, you pay someone and someone signed for you, and you still get your money that you're meant to get for serving. Does that work? Who is actually, where the task force, where the agencies are monitoring all this things to make it work? It's not working.
So when we talk about incentives, I'd like to go back to the short PE incentives some young persons get in the country. You say that can't actually help out?
Come again, sorry.
The short PE that gives out a handout of 10,000 naira for you doing a kind of job for maybe clean up the streets or some communal labor. You say that can't help out?
Why didn't they plot that money into training? You see, that program, the other day I watched a program and I had someone saying they have a time plan or a time frame for it, which means it's not going to be a long-lasting program. So if I'm being paid 10,000 naira from now till maybe 6 months or a year, what happens after that?
When it stops.
When it stops. Now, what have I gained? What experience have I gained? Am I going to gain experience as a refuse collector? As a street cleaner? Why don't you put that money into that person going for training, like a plumber? Go train as a plumber, go train as a mechanic, or as a carpenter. So at the end of the program, you can be self-employed yourself and become employer of labor. That is where I'm actually saying I'm advocating put this money into apprenticeship scale, into technical training, so that at the end of the whole thing, it won't go down the drain. Because if I get 10,000 naira every month for 1 year at the end of the program, where does that?
And when they come out of such a scheme, apprenticeship scheme, how do they take on life independently?
Funds should be set aside for that program. If you have, for example, 10,000 every month in a local government or a state, now at the end of that training program, there should be some funds set aside for them that they can actually go into self-employment to buy tools. They could come in together as a consortium or as a group to form a company, and they can actually bring in what they've learned into that scheme and begin to turn over their experience. And they're going to be, of course, employing more labor to work for them. And particularly, look at, the other day, I look into how Thailand's come into this country.